What's up, Disc Dungeoneers? Joe Dove here, co-host of the Disc Dungeon podcast. Just letting you know that Julian and I are going down dark depths of discographies to bring you some fresh new episodes of the Disc Dungeon. Right now, I want to present to you a special episode of Disc Dungeon with my good buddy Brandon Liu, from Comic Conversation, part of the ToBeSeen.com universe. Boy, do we have an epic one for you. I hope you enjoy. Please rate this podcast, subscribe to the podcast, and share our podcast with your friends, your family, even your enemies, because we could use the support. Hello, and welcome to the Disc Dungeon, where we put you on to musics and melodies in the deepest, darkest dungeons of your computer disk. I'm your co-host, Joe Dove, and with me, as always,
Julian Valencia. And if there's one thing we love talking about, it's music.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Joe Dove, co-host of the Disc Dungeon for this beautiful podcast. And we are doing yet another SoundCloud exclusive that may end up on the podcast. If you're listening to the podcast, you're seeing this and going, why did he say that? Well, wherever it is, I'm glad you're listening. And I appreciate your time and constant attendance here on the Disc Dungeon podcast. Please do us a favor and subscribe to the podcast. Give us a rating on iTunes or Google Play if available, and share it with your friends and family. As again, I said, this is the Disc Dungeon podcast, and normally I am the co-host with Julian Valencia. I have super exciting news. I'm bringing a dear friend of mine and host of Comic Conversation, the amazing, the one and only Brandon Liu.
Hey, that's me.
There he is, ladies and gentlemen. So excited to have him here. I'm going to go and just get into why we're doing it this way. We are Zooming because of the pandemic and all its wondrous ways that it's spewing into the lungs and minds of people. And we're doing it from the safety of our home. That's why we get to wear no masks. And we are going to dive deep into cinema sounds, especially those musics and soundtracks of comic movies. And yeah, and Brandon and I are going to go and dive down deep, dark depths of disastrous and sometimes delightful sound scores from two of our favorite movies from the comic universe. So I'm going to let Brandon go first. And
am I saying both of them right now? Are we doing one and then one and then one and then
yeah,
one?
you're gonna do a one, I'm gonna do one, then you're gonna do your second, and I'm gonna do my second, and then we're just gonna keep moving on.
Okay. So thank you for allowing me to go first.
Yeah, you're the host, you're the guest, so you're the guest host, and that's what we do.
This is your show. You go however way you want. But it's always dangerous to put me on the microphone because you might be expecting a half hour or 45-minute conversation, and then next thing you know, you got a 2-hour episode.
Hey, if it spills over that long, that's great. It's just more episodes to come out. It's great stuff.
I'm going to do my best for you so you don't have to do too much editing.
No worries.
I got to admit, when you told me I had to only pick two, it was difficult because I love superhero movie scores, their soundtracks, so it's hard to narrow down just two. But when people think about movie soundtracks, the first one that comes to my mind usually is the first one I ever owned, and that is the Batman Forever soundtrack.
Interesting.
Batman Forever soundtrack was fantastic. Array of very 90s, but like mid-90s sounds.
That's the one with Kiss from a Rose on the
Yes.
Ooh, the market if you stranger. Sorry.
No. You could keep going, man. Schumacher.
Yes.
Schumacher had taken over the directorial role of the franchise. Mm-hmm. And he was going for a more poppy, not just look, but sound for the Batman movies, as opposed to Tim Burton, and Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman was doing the score, and Tim Burton, of course, was the director. And not to knock the film score of Danny Elfman, because that is to this day, I think the iconic sound that defined Batman. That Danny Elfman score. But what I was taking home and what I was listening to was Batman Forever soundtrack, because you had "Kiss from a Rose" by Seal, like you just said. Mm-hmm. I was in love with that song.
Yeah.
To this day, I don't know what it means. But it was like the sad boy. If you were feeling romantic and you were just like a gloomy goth, or just were feeling some teenage angst, I compare you to a kiss from a rose on the grave. And it was now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the grave. What was I going through as a kid?
Oh my God!
And it stuck with you because you knew it immediately.
Oh, I love that song. I was already a big Seal fan, because like in the 80s he had his self-titled album Seal.
Yes.
And he had this song called "Crazy."
Oh, I love it.
Oh, I love that.
We're never going to survive unless we go crazy, Joe.
Yeah, exactly. So, always loved Seal. And then having him come out with another album, because it had been a long gap in between albums for him.
Yeah, and I found that Batman Forever soundtrack was kind of weird in a way, like who they were pulling audience-wise, where they were grabbing from, what artists they grabbed. Because they didn't stick to one genre of music.
No, they went all over the place.
They grabbed U2 to do "Hold Me, Kiss Me."
I actually like that song too. Kiss me,
something like that.
Yeah.
That was like, that might have been maybe not my first U2 song.
Oh wow!
But definitely it was the one that had me going, bam, 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 bam. You got Method Man.
Yeah, they went hip hop in there.
Doing the Riddler. My first Offspring song. I didn't even know the Offspring song. Offspring was doing it, but Offspring did "Smash It Up," which was a fantastic song. And as it paired with the movie, I just felt like everything was selected so well. Even now, I think about when we're getting a Just Fired Jim Carrey, Edward Nygma, heading back to his home to figure out what the hell he's gonna do with his life.
Yeah.
And the Flaming Lips song, "Bad Day" plays. It's like,
oh yeah,
boss at your job, but in your dream.
Oh man, yeah, these are great tunes on that soundtrack. Yeah.
I just felt that. I know that the Batman Forever and the both Schumacher movies are very divisive. You know that I like the movie. I know you don't like the movie.
No.
But I think part of the reason why the movie resonated so much with me was the music specifically chosen for the movie.
Right.
Because, if it sounds good, I'm not saying like you're halfway there or anything like that, but I'm going to be pleased if the music that you are choosing to be in your movie to represent the emotions that are happening, if it's all seamless, you've got my attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I loved the soundtrack for Batman Forever, so you won't get any qualms out of me regarding that. I just didn't like the movie. And when I first saw it, I got to admit, I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I watched my favorite Batman Returns, and I was like, wow, what happened? This was cooler, So
yeah, that's the one I don't like.
Oh, wow. It's so funny that we have this we have this yin and yang thing going on with those movies.
I can maybe appreciate it a little more now. I still think a lot of the design elements were really cool. Costume wise, but it just wasn't my Batman movie.
No, everybody's got their Batman movie.
Returns the soundtrack for you? Is that
That was one of my first. That's the first soundtrack I ever bought. And if you've ever listened to the show, you guys know I used to take pilgrimages to Cross County or White Plains. It would be an hour bus ride or an hour walk because it was about 2 miles from my house to Sam Goody or Musicland or Borders when those things started to shutter over the years and with the growth of like Napster and such.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Batman Returns in, ironically, what became later as Coconuts. It was a movie theater on Central Avenue. Yeah.
I remember Coconuts. Wow.
Yeah, you remember that place? Yeah, it was the good old days, man. Kids today don't know. They don't know what it's like to venture out and get music and not have to leave your phone. But I used to, like I said, walk and take these long walks over and grab that. That was the first soundtrack I got. It was really cool because there's a part in the movie, in the first movie, where Batman flies up and he's like on the sun with the Batmobile, and then it comes back down and it kind of looks like the bat signal in the moon. I thought that was such a cool like moment in cinematography with Batman particularly that it stuck in my head. Even to this day, they still haven't recaptured that magic and that essence of that particular scene, even though the quality of CGI and graphics has just kind of surpassed anything that we've ever imagined.
No, but that moment was so important because I feel that it kind of set the tone for superhero movies featuring the heroes leaving a calling card of some sort.
Right.
And with seldom is there as much success.
Yeah.
Like even with Batman, and you think of The Dark Knight Returns, the moment where he like lights the bridge on fire.
Right.
To show the Bat taking over on the bridge.
They're on fire in the building.
That's weird.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to do it. Batman just destroyed everything. He probably left like, don't worry, this is going to be paid for by Wayne Tech. Don't worry, you're good.
Why did you find the time to put kerosene in that?
Oh, specifically in the shape of a bat. Like, it's like, I know you were a fan of The Crow and all, but we really took it up a level. But to me, the soundtrack is going to define the film as well as the character. Right. And the dark undertone from Danny Elfman, though it's very synth and some orchestral, it was a nice combination of both, really set up not only the movie, but for me, the sound of Batman. I feel like to this day, even as great as the Nolan movies are, they still haven't been able to leave a theme that resonates in my head. When I left Batman Begins, I was like, this was cool, but like, where's the Batman theme? It's just a drum that hum and a hum, and then it just had louder and quieter tones of that same drum and hum. I just felt like, even though Hans Zimmer is like one of the best currently, he just did the Wonder Woman 84 soundtrack.
Right.
And I think he did some of the Superman soundtracks, most of the DC. So he's like the current Danny Elfman, if you ask me.
There's something about those 80s and early 90s movies where when they created themes, they were just iconic. Even to a certain extent, like he's not a superhero in the way that you would think of today, but he's more of a pulp hero.
Okay.
The Rocketeer.
Oh yeah.
Soundtrack.
Yeah, he had a dope theme too.
Score. And when you think about Superman's score, like these are still like iconic songs that maybe less so the Rocketeer. Rocketeer was great, but I don't feel like has the mass appeal. But like Superman, like everyone knows Superman's theme. You know? Same thing with Batman. To this day, like that theme. And there's some great scores now, but there's none that I find myself like humming to myself.
Right. Exactly. I mean, the Rocketeer was composed by James Horner, and I thought for sure it was also Danny Elfman because it kind of sounded similar, like the way it was overtuned, but like it's not. Totally different.
Yeah, there's something about that era where there's this particular sound.
It's a defining theme for the character, and I think that's what really helped those late 80s, early 90s. films, and I really enjoyed The Rocketeer, even though I thought for the 90s, it was 91, the same time that Seal album came out, but like it supposedly wasn't the success they were expecting because it still came out after the 89 Batman movie, which really changed the scope for superhero films. So
the movie still stands, it's still very good.
it's a great movie. I agree.
When you talk about the like who it's appealing to, superhero movies over the last 20 years might seem normal.
Mm-hmm.
But even when it wasn't so normal, we still had superhero cartoons.
Right.
So they were these relevant parts of our childhood even before the movies came along.
Right.
The Rocketeer being more of a pulp hero, the height of his popularity was around like World War time.
Right. Right. He's like from the Shadow and the Ghost.
Yeah, you think about Zorro,
Phantom.
These are the heroes that the Rocketeer, that's his peer group. So even though I think it deserves recognition, it really didn't pierce our, the zeitgeist of our generation. Even though it's still a good movie with a fantastic score.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I told you it was gonna be hard to just talk two.
Yeah. But the reason why I said two is because in case we have opportunity again to have you back, we'll just talk about two other ones. It could be a random reoccurring. So back into Batman Returns. The other thing that I really enjoyed about that score is the way that it helped get you into the emotion of the rise and fall of the Penguin. Because how he transferred the music into the being of the Danny DeVito character portrayal. You felt sad when he found out, his parents deep sixed him, and he even knew about it, but you really kind of like related with the character, and I felt like the movie gave you that emo essence of dark, but yet connecting to him, and I just think that the music really helped push that along. And then he got like real villainous where he kills his own boy, and that seemed to be a reoccurring theme in the early Batman movies, like Bob, gun, bang, and he kills Bob, and Penguin does the same thing. It's like, okay, we got some kind of psychopath thing, but that reoccurring thing I found to be kind of interesting. I don't think everybody's ever really caught that. Like the main villain kills their main henchman in the movie. Like
I still feel like that's definitely a trope.
Yeah.
What happens, your general, failed to succeed.
Right.
But no firing in this business.
No, you just get killed.
Just get killed and then you get replaced.
Yeah. But when it comes to that that second Batman movie, even the Catwoman's theme, like all of these musical moments really helped move along the story too, because sometimes the music, if you listen to the music without the film itself, it carries its own story. And a case in point, I'm a bit of a writer. I did when I was younger anyway. I used to do a lot of writing, and I listened to Enigma a lot, and I feel like they're a cinematic band. And when I listened to the music, even though there was no visual connection or visual aspect for me, except for Return to Innocence, which was later on, but I always had come up with stories based off the sounds that I've heard. So I feel like, if you listen to the Batman Returns soundtrack, you can come up with a separate story based off the music itself. It's kind of, though it's embellishing the moments that you're seeing on the screen, it's also telling its own story. And I really appreciated the Batman Returns soundtrack for that, because it gave more depth into the amazing performance by Danny DeVito, Michelle Pfeiffer, and of course, Christopher Walken as Max Schreck, which I'm sure you probably hated, but I just thought it really brought out the best of all these guys. And that was my number one film, and I'm going to pass it back to you for your second.
See, now this is tough. Because now I'm thinking about changing my answer.
Oh.
Because, there's so many places this thing can go. But when we're talking about the orchestral. I'm not sure if I'm even pronouncing that
No,
right.
that's right. You're right. Yeah.
Talk about the orchestra and composers for great, tracks that serve to present a mood, present a character, present an emotion, and isn't relying on the jukebox style of having pop songs. Even though the Batman Forever was like an original soundtrack, everybody was making songs for the album. It wasn't like they were grabbing random songs. But there's still something to that film score aspect that I feel needs to be acknowledged.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to switch away from what I was going to say originally.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to mention that one of my favorites, and it's a current one, is Captain America Winter Soldier.
Oh, wow.
Captain America Winter Soldier, I think, has a beautiful film score. Because there's so many different sounds, and I think part of it's because of who Captain America is, and compared to where we saw him, like the first Avenger is one of my favorites, but it's very much here's this hero, and for the most part, he's in his time. Winter Soldier is our first Captain America movie where he's not a man in his time. He is a man in our present day and age, and I think you really hear that in the music that plays, whether it's songs that are really featured and focused on Captain America. You still hear that old school. We were talking about that sound that we heard in like the Rocketeer, and those Danny Elfman like sounds, and these Hans Zimmer like sounds, and I feel like when they present the World War hero, Captain America, and they play music to carry behind him, you get those trumpets. So you still get those trumpets behind him that present this golden age hero. Boom, boom, boom. You still hear that, but then you get the reveal of Winter Soldier and Bucky, and those sounds are so distorted. Almost sounds like a bit of dubstep a little bit. Like, the way distorted sounds come in when Winter Soldier comes in. And the fight scenes, it's funny, the fight scenes kind of remind me of Steve Blackman's theme song.
From wrestling. Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Maybe borrowed some of the sounds from like Kill Bill. Kill Bill may have inspired some of these sounds, but there's a lot of that in these fight scenes, and there's so many different sounds pulled from so many different directions, whether it's in support of our hero, whether it's the introduction of our enemy, whether it's the reveal that our enemy is our best friend. There is so many places to pull from, and there's so many sounds involved, and yet it all comes together uniformly, some way. Like, I don't know how, but it does. It all makes sense. If you listen from beginning to end and just like let it play on whatever your listening device is. I'm not here to advertise for any of them. But whatever your subscription service is that you listen to your music on, I just feel like that's a start to finish. You can just let it play, and it's beautiful. And it's funny, I want to make sure that I didn't get the name wrong, because I'm always tempted to say Hugh Jackman, but I believe the composer is Henry Jackman.
Okay, I'm sure that's correct.
Yes. I just double checked right now.
Oh, okay, because I was gonna.
Because I was so tempted to say Hugh Jackman, and I know Wolverine didn't make the music for Captain America.
No, he didn't.
And it's also cool on the soundtrack that Marvin Gaye's Trouble Man is on there too, because Falcon mentions it to him as a song that he needs to go listen to. It was on his list of things to check out of the modern age.
Yeah.
And So on the Captain America soundtrack, including with all that fantastic orchestral music, you also get a little bit of Marvin Gaye.
Yeah.
Marvin Gaye, baby.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Marvin. Yeah, you can't. No argument there for me. He was fantastic. And you know what I like? That was probably the first time I noticed Marvel really pulled the cinematic universe together. Like they went and started to pull like some characters that you were like, what are you doing that for?
Mm-hmm.
And then they just like, even Iron Man had such a great soundtrack.
His sound,
yeah,
he might have had maybe the most diverse of the Marvel cinematic age,
right?
Because he had Iron Man 1 sound.
I know he had ZZ,
like a little different
Black Sabbath or something like that.
2, because Iron Man 2 is almost entirely just AC/DC songs.
Right.
And then Iron Man 3, they had a whole new director.
Yeah.
And a whole new
Shane Black, right?
Say that again?
It was Shane Black.
I believe so.
Yeah.
And so you got a different director, so you've got a different direction.
Yeah.
And so and the tone of the movie is different from the first two.
Mm-hmm.
So the sound of the movie is also different from the first two. So all three, whether you like it or not, all three movies have a very unique sound, and they all kind of serve. I think Iron Man 2 might be the weakest of the three, only because of how good the scores are for 1 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that 2 is just bad, but I think maybe an over-reliance on AC/DC might have
yeah.
might have just kind of makes it seem less impressive. And I love AC/DC.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I love Black Sabbath, and them being able to use the Iron Man song for the first Iron Man movie was a huge win for me. And I just feel like, the magic that DC captured in the late 80s, early 90s, even with Superman, where it was just great storytelling, a fantastic visual moment for you as a patron in the theater. And then musically, they just had the whole bow on the cinema universe. And then when Marvel did Iron Man, I felt like they just took it all back and was like, no, it's our time. And it just rang true. And then it just kept getting better and better. Even like the Avengers, they have a theme that was kind of cool. And, I don't think DC had a really good theme until Wonder Woman, personally.
I might have to agree. I think you touched on it a little bit. I liked the Batman Begins and Dark Knight. I like the scores for that particular trilogy. And it might be, even though maybe not your favorite, might be one of the most iconic, or maybe not iconic, but influential scores in all of cinema.
Yeah.
Not just superhero, because I feel like after Dark Knight specifically, after the score for Dark Knight, every movie, Inception, Transformers, Battleship, whatever.
Yeah, they all had that scene. Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
And I'm sorry for listeners, because I know you're going to be listening. This is not like, I know you're going to be putting this on SoundCloud, and and I'm sorry to everybody. I just made that sound to in your ear. You didn't need that in your life. But that sound, love it or hate it, and I kind of hate it. But it kind of went everywhere. It was such a trendy sound to put in all of your action/suspense movies.
Yeah.
And I think to a certain extent, aside from that sound, but the soundtracks, they've all kind of veered into this kind of hummy territory. Even Spider-Man kind of the
yeah, it really wasn't like something defining, like, but Wonder Woman got it.
Yes, Wonder Woman, it was like a throwback.
Yeah, it was proper. Well, my number one of the two that we're mentioning is is an interesting way to go about a comic adaptation. Not all of them are actually a full-fledged live action. Some of them are comics that got turned into cartoons and still had amazing cinescapes and fantastic soundtracks. And when you go back into the 80s,
Okay.
in fact, the year I was born, 1981.
You're older than me. I get it.
Yeah, we have a soundtrack to a comic movie that features amazing 80 artists like Journey, Don Felder, Stevie Nicks, Blue Oyster Cult, Devo, Sammy Hagar, Grand Funk Railroad, Black Sabbath. And I'm talking about the heavy metal soundtrack, 1981's heavy metal soundtrack. If you...
Okay. Wow, I didn't see this coming. Yeah, you for a loop. Wow.
Yeah. I happen to be a huge rock fan, like of rock music, and I like orchestral music, and I love soundscapes and new age and things like that. I have a very big eclectic scope for music. There's some hip hop that I like. You know, I enjoy RZA, who actually did produced the Batman Forever soundtrack, which I didn't know he was doing that far back, because I know he's done some movies recently.
Right.
But, you know, he was doing it for a while, and I find that to be interesting. But each one of those songs that is on this soundtrack are unto themselves defining moments in the film.
Right.
And they're just great songs as they are normally. Like Stevie Nicks' Blue Lamp, Don Felder's All of You, Black Sabbath's The Mob Rules. They're just such a pivotal moment into the story. Have you ever seen heavy metal?
No, but I'm aware of it. I'm aware of the literature as well.
Those are not for kids, guys.
I think that's part of the reason why I haven't seen it myself, because this was a time, and you don't see it much anymore, animation for adults.
Yes.
Animation for adults now, and I don't want to say animation was never for adults, because that's not true. For the most part, it was for adults. It was, when you go back to like Fred Flintstone and
Hanna-Barbera.
Prime time, that was like primetime television.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Warner Brothers and Disney cartoons at the time, a lot of that was produced for adults, kind of like, get people to invest in was it war bonds? It was
a
lot of I don't know why I'm forgetting the word right now, but just a lot of propaganda. There we go. A lot of military propaganda. So a lot of cartoons were for adults. But when Disney started making a lot of these Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and Cinderella and Fox and the Hound, a lot of these movies, it kind of pushed in the direction of like movies, for kids.
Right.
And somewhere around like the 70s and early 80s, you is just like this weird time where you got these movies for adults and maybe they didn't like they become like cult favorites. They're not really like big blockbusters. They maybe even turned up a profit, but it wasn't like they were getting like huge profits.
Right.
Because parents couldn't take their kids to this.
Correct.
Adults who don't watch cartoons, like, who's this even for?
Yeah.
But the heavy metal movie is, I know of it. I know it's friggin' weird and just very trippy. So I want to check it out.
Yeah, you definitely should. I highly recommend it. I'm sure it's on Amazon or whatever.
They got that villain who looks just like, kind of like David Bowie-ish.
Yep, exactly. Yep, and then there's this
Mick Jagger lips.
Yep, and then there's a mysterious orb that's behind a ton of this stuff, and
yeah, it's a wild movie. I know of it. I want to see it, and I know of the soundtrack, and I have to make it a personal mission to check it out.
Yeah.
Because I'm always looking for songs I haven't heard before to do, because I like rock music.
Yeah.
But I also feel like we're like I can't speak for you, but I definitely feel like I'm someone who listened to singles, and I didn't have a lot of money to get albums. I know more people's top hits than their whole discography.
Yeah.
So there's always a lot nice hidden gems for me to find when I look backwards.
Oh yeah, you're gonna be pleasantly surprised when you dive into this, because in fact, when we come back, we're gonna have to discuss this soundtrack, and I will be putting you onto it, and you
Why
can.
are you giving me a pop quiz for my next?
Hey, that's just how we do here in the dungeon.
Damn, talk about torture in the dungeon. They put
Yeah.
homework.
Yeah, I mean the movie itself is just it's like a variety of different stories, a variety of music, and a variety similar animation. It's one consistent animated film throughout the whole thing. But when you deeply read into the stories of heavy metal, or into specifically this film, the journey takes you on so many different planes that you think it's drawn by different people, but I don't think it is. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I absolutely love it. My uncle put me onto this when I was a kid. And yeah. Yeah, I had a fun childhood.
Walked your little brain.
Yes. I love boobs. But the different characters and the way they looked, and it wasn't just a story with a bunch of humans. It was a story with aliens and and weird creatures and everything like that. And it's just such a dope amalgamation or variety stories that you would get a variety soundtrack for it. And it just kind of fits so well. It set the tone for the film. Each one of these songs was it set the tone for the story. It fit everything perfectly, like a puzzle, like a leather glove, so to speak. And you kept going back to that soundtrack. Even today, I'll still listen to it on my travels from New York City to Jersey on the bus, because some of these were like, especially if I have to walk at a certain distance, some of these are kind of moving. Like that song, Rider Radar, The Mob Rules, and I Must Be Dreaming from Cheap Trick are just, pulse pounding songs that you just kind of get behind and jump into. It's great. I love them. And I highly recommend it if you've never heard it, like yourself and the listeners checking this out. I definitely recommend you dive down deep into your streaming services and look for the heavy metal soundtrack. You won't regret it. And check out the movie too. It's a great movie. And this, like I said, like I've repeated before, the score set the tone for it, and you'll see how well it meshes together. Like, I think there's an old rumor that if you set the movie Wizard of Oz to the Dark Side of the Moon, it kind of matches every frame up until I think they get into the woods when the album ends, and it does work. And movie music just kind of works that way.
From the Batman Forever soundtrack, I didn't realize that was like a rare soundtrack, because it's not available on the streaming service I use.
No.
Without naming them, because they're not paying me.
Right. Very good.
But that soundtrack's not available on that streaming service, and it's the biggest streaming service,
Yeah.
So it's like, if you want to hear some of the songs, you've probably got to like hunt for it on like YouTube or something.
Yeah.
And then that can be tough, because if they want to, the music companies will go ahead and pull your pull the tracks down if they don't want the tracks there. So it's if you can get your hands on whether a CD, cassette, a record, however you can find it. If you can find the MP3s, because I don't know how available they are, like where you can get them from. Like, damn, I wish Napster was still around.
Yeah.
Like, get Kazaa, something.
Oh, wow. Kazaa. Morpheus.
Yeah. Because it's tough to get your hands on some of these songs.
Yeah. I know for a fact when I was saying some of these songs, they weren't specifically made for the film, but some of them are. The Sammy Hagar heavy metal definitely was made for the film, but the rest of them I can't say whether or not they were or not.
Right.
I know for a fact Working in a Coal Mine was not directly for the film, because that was a Devo hit beforehand. But just some of these songs just like hit the mark every time. So now that brings us to our next section, and that's behind the beat. And what this normally entails is the work that you're doing as the co-host of the show, Mr. Brandon Liu. Let's dive deep into what you're working on, what's forthcoming in your personal life and career. What do we got to look forward to?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, it's great to be here. You said it at the beginning. I am the host of Comic Conversation. Comic Conversation can be found on To Be Seen YouTube page, or check us out at tobeseen.com. It's that way we can get the hits and not YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's cool to be doing this with you because To Be Seen, I know that's your baby, and it's great to be doing Comic Conversation on your channel.
Yeah.
But Disc Dungeon is also one of the shows on To Be Seen, and
It is.
It's like a crossover.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. This is fun.
As far as what I'm doing, I've got a couple episodes lined up. One of them will be focused on Dr. Octopus, because
we like tentacles.
There's a lot of rumors. There's a lot of rumors about what the next Spider-Man movie will entail. Everyone's kind of made up their mind that it's the Spider-Verse.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's true or not is not my business to say. But the Spider-Verse is a very big arc that focuses on a lot of people. And the one thing that we do know for sure is Dr. Octopus is confirmed to be there. And it is the same Dr. Octopus from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, Alfred Montoya, right?
I believe it's Alfred Molina.
Molina, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I am excited for that. And on the next Comic Conversation, I'll be talking about possible things that Dr. Octopus can get into, aside from it just being, it's Spider-Verse. Like, Spider-Verse doesn't tell me anything.
You're right.
What will Dr. Octopus be doing? And I have a couple of ideas inspired by comics that I've read of what Dr. Octopus could be doing in the next Spider-Man movie. So that's the next one I'm working on. I'm also looking to collaborate with one of our buddies, Maddie Ming.
Oh.
As I bring the worlds of wrestling and comic books together. And we're going to look at some wrestling comics.
Nice.
And just some other things that I want to talk about. Like, I've been reading Sabrina the Teenage Witch, because the new show, not the new show, the new season, so The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, drops on New Year's, I believe. Wow. So now that the show's almost done, I'm reading the comic, and I want to compare the two. That's just a couple of the things I'm getting into, just some of the things you'll hear about on Comic Conversation. I just kind of talk about whatever I want.
Yeah. I give you carte blanche. There's no subterfuge, man. You do whatever you want.
Thank you. Producer Joe. That's
I never handcuff the host. I do it. It's all you.
Joe Dove to you, but it'll be always Producer Joe to me. It's so if you're interested in checking out comics and want something, I want to say just like different, because I don't really follow what's the newest item out there. That seems like a very competitive field to be in, and everybody's talking about the same subject.
Yeah.
I'd rather just talk about whatever the hell I want.
Yeah, and it's worked. It's worked.
Yeah, sometimes it's superhero stuff, supervillain stuff, in the case of Dr. Octopus. Sometimes it's Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and sometimes it's the WWE. And I'm looking forward to talking to Maddie about that.
Yeah, that should be fun. I got my big boss man here still from the AJ Orsini episode that I did.
Boss man has had some appearance in comic books. So
there you go. Maybe we'll hear him again. Look at that.
But the next one we'll be looking at, or at least the ones that I've shared with Maddie, to give a little tease, is we're looking at an old comic, which looks at the feud between the Texas Tornado Kerry Von Erich and Mr. Perfect, and the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase manipulating things in the background.
He's the WWE's Lex Luthor.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And then we're going to compare that older comic to a newer comic from Boom Studios, where we look at the behind the scenes, what's going on between Seth Rollins as he turns on the Shield, aligns himself with the Authority, and
Oh, wow.
the Universal Championship.
Oh my God, that was a good arc. That was the last really good WWE arc too.
Yeah, and you know what? That one is written, I believe, I could be wrong. I hope I'm not, by comic superstar Dennis Hopeless.
Oh.
And so it'll be interesting for me to take a look at someone I know his comic book stuff.
Yeah.
Seeing how he plays in the world of WWE, and it's the idea of making a comic book out of WWE both sounds like it makes the most sense and also sounds super silly. And sometimes it is super silly.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward and just getting into it, and you'll see it. But first is definitely Dr. Octopus. That's coming soon.
Dope. Can't wait. I highly encourage everybody to check us out. We're more than just music here at This Dungeon. We got comics, we got movies and new shows coming back. And
check out To Be Seen on YouTube.
Yep.
You can check me out at Lewis or Brandon on Twitter and Instagram to find out what I'm doing, and I share images of comic book stuff so you can know what I'm currently reading.
There you go.
You can also check out Comic Conversation on Twitter, COMICOMVO. I'm so good at that now.
You are. That's like the many years of editing. Oh, the 1 year that we edited, it's like, wait, what? Is that right?
No, one Comic Convo. So just come check us out, and you can see everything we're getting into if you want to stay up with what I'm doing.
There you go. Man, it's great to have you here. This has been a fun episode thus far.
Fun for me, man.
Yeah, and it's always good to just chat with you because you're a very interesting fellow, and I feel like you're very multi-talented, and I always learn from you, so it's always nice to have a good conversation with you because it's just genuine. It's nice to have somebody in your life that's got good presence and that's got honesty to them. So
I miss shooting the episodes around you.
Yeah,
because I know it. There is a different energy when I'm in front of the camera and you're the cameraman than when I'm speaking into a computer and I'm by myself.
Yeah.
And the new format, I think, works. I like it. I've adjusted well to the
yeah, we roll with punches, man. It's great.
To our COVID days.
Yeah.
But I miss you too, buddy. And
yay!
As soon as we can get back to filming, we'll do it right. Put the mask on.
Yeah.
And, I look forward to recording again.
Absolutely.
Because this energy, it's electric.
Boogie. So before we go, as we wrap this out and we turn to the end of the time, we are going to talk about just really quickly about some of the movies that didn't do well with their soundtracks. That just didn't really leave you with anything. Yet, I'm only going to do one. You feel free to mention a few if you wish.
I think I've only got one.
Oh, okay. It'd be funny if it's the same one because we did this blind, so it'll be really
yeah,
fun.
This is true.
Yeah, but I felt Shazam was just missing a theme. It was just like the music was there, but it was kind of just there.
Okay.
And I feel like it didn't set up the rest of the film. I actually find Shazam, even after seeing Wonder Woman 84 last night, I find Shazam to be one of the better DC movies that's come out in a while. I would say maybe even to me, one of their best ones in a while. I would put it after the Dark Knight series. But I really enjoyed that movie. I felt like the story moved pretty well. It didn't digress too much from the source material. It really did a fun way of bringing it all together. Even brought Shazam's family, spoilers if you haven't seen it, but the Shazam family together. I really think they did a great job with the translation into screen with the character. And I'm really looking forward to the Black Adam movie to get a chance to see him again. I thought the casting was great with Zachary Levi. He's a big kid. And so, him being Shazam was a perfect casting choice. And I felt like that movie almost had the full bow where everything just kind of worked perfectly, except for the soundtrack. There was just something lacking in that film when it came to the CinemaScope. It was just like, oh, where's the music? It just didn't leave me anything. It was just like, you almost got it, but you dropped it, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
Because I had only one really, and I was gonna name something else, but I'll get to that. But I only had one movie. But now you just put something else in my mind that I completely forgot about. But the one that came to my mind immediately is ironic because I don't dislike the music.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that it's poorly integrated into the movie, and that's Suicide Squad.
Oh, interesting.
Suicide Squad was a movie that I feel its biggest flaw was its pacing, and there's a lot of flaws.
Yeah.
But its pacing is its biggest one, because I'm not one of the bigger haters of the film. I actually find there are things to enjoy about Suicide Squad.
I agree.
But the pacing is so off, and it shifts gears so often that I'll be loving it one moment and then hating it another.
Yeah.
And I think music is a big part of that, because every now and then it will just hit you, come out of nowhere with like this. I mentioned it before, like this jukebox style of like playing these songs, and I don't feel like the songs when they would come, they would always make the most sense. Like, why is this happening? Why is this here?
Yeah.
And so it really bothers me because I like the music. I just think it's not good for the movie.
Yeah. There were a lot of misses in the movie. I enjoyed it. I felt like there could have been a little bit more Jared Leto, because I really wanted to see what he was doing with Joker, but he was ended up being like a weird.
So much was left on the cutting room floor that I don't know what he did.
Yeah.
I have less of a problem with Leto as the Joker and more of a problem with. I mean, I guess some of that because of some of it's the directing. Some of it is, like I said, what was left on the floor, because Joker is not one guy. Like, and I don't mean that literally because of the three Joker war, the Joker war that's happening. Right. I mean that there's been many different interpretations of Joker over the years, and so it's not my place to say that his interpretation of the Joker is not the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't feel the movie served him well, and so it's a shame. But I think the music is a bigger misstep than the casting there.
Yeah.
Like I had no problem with the casting. I had a bigger problem with the music. It was tough to get through.
Yeah.
But you just reminded me of something inadvertently when you were talking about Shazam.
Oh.
Aquaman.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Aquaman.
I did not like the score there was this thing that was going on a lot. It was very cringy. It reminded me of a 90s movie, and not in a good way.
Right.
Where every time, like, he would, like, Jason Momoa would, like, step through a door or do something, it'd be like this weird guitar riff, like, but
it wasn't, like, consistent like Wonder Woman.
And it was just awkward. Like, because I didn't love Wonder Woman. I didn't see 84. I'm not talking about that.
Right.
But I like it. I found it to be enjoyable. I thought it had more positives than negatives. I liked Wonder Woman, and I liked the music. I thought the music could also be a little heavy-handed.
Mm-hmm. But
I didn't think it was bad.
Right.
I thought Aquaman was so heavy-handed that it came across as bad to me. Like it happened. I remember in the. Like some of the opening moments where Aquaman's on a submarine and he's getting shot at or something, and like it's ineffective, and then they like zoom in on Momoa as he like raises his eyebrow like The Rock or something, and the car goes again. I'm like, so crazy.
Yeah, that's a good one, because that's something that I feel like is a I mean, I liked Aquaman because it was an adventure movie, and I thought that aspect was really cool because it was like, let's take Indiana Jones and make it a superhero movie, and I appreciated that, and I really had a lot of respect for Aquaman. But that beginning scene was almost painful because the villains were overacting to the point of like, is this William Shatner's school of acting here? Like, what's going on?
Shatner is a genius, and mouth. Nah.
But it was so like choppy. It was weird. I was like, what's going on? And then the movie picked up, and I was like, oh, okay, and I enjoyed it. But you're right, like the soundtrack was just overbearing, and it didn't really mesh. Right, and it took away from it. So like, I did enjoy Aquaman, but not for the music, and it didn't lead me to go, I really want to hear this soundtrack again, or want to see this movie again. It was like, oh, I enjoyed that, and that's all I'm gonna watch.
I'm gonna name something else, and it'll be the last thing I mention, but I saved it for last because technically it's not a superhero movie soundtrack.
Okay.
It is a soundtrack.
Okay.
And it is superhero.
Okay.
Not a movie.
Okay.
It is Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark.
Oh.
From Broadway.
Yes, I remember that.
Broadway musical. I believe Bono.
He did.
Was the composer for this.
He was, yeah. And they almost killed Spider-Man twice.
Yes, and I thought, and my mother, bless her heart, got me tickets.
Aw.
Got the family tickets.
Oh.
To see Spider-Man on Broadway.
Wow.
And it is a horrible, laughably bad show.
Oh, man.
But I didn't have the heart to tell my mother that.
Yeah.
I did enjoy myself, though.
Right.
Because it was so bad, you could not help but laugh. And
so it's The Room of...
Yes. Yeah. It's like The Room, but with pizzazz, because it's a musical.
Yeah.
The costumes were hilarious. Like it was like going a great adventure.
Oh, wow. We got the Great Adventure Spider-Man.
My favorite costume might have been the lizard because half his body was out to show that he was actually Doc Connors.
Right.
And like, the lizard was like coming out of his like chest.
Oh, my God. It was like alien moment going on there.
Meanwhile, the Green Goblin, who looked more like the Green Goblin from the movie than the comic book.
Oh, wow.
He was like the MC of the evening.
That's weird.
He was very much like he was very much like not Jafar, but like what the hell is James Woods' name? Hades in
Hercules, yeah.
It's very so like when we went to intermission, it was like the Green Goblin sending us off to intermission. It is. I recommend listening to it, but not because it's good.
So bad it's worth watching. Yeah.
I'm not a smoker, but I used to dabble in the marijuanas. And if you find yourself in the mood for listening to something just awkward and need something to laugh at while you're rolling that J, put on the Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark soundtrack. And just it's gold. Comedic, terrible gold. It is
awesome.
Wow. And that's what I'm gonna leave you with.
Wow. What a way to end it. What a way. So I tell you what, like I put on to you heavy metal, I'm gonna go search for this, and that'll be the thing that I bring back the next time we do this again.
Oh God. All right, yeah. You know what? If you're gonna put yourself Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, which was my bad pick, I do not mind at all putting on your good pick.
Yeah, I knew your good picks. Those are great picks. So I'm going to leave myself a note.
Like what? You have me back again, and I promise you the songs that I pick next time or the soundtracks I pick next time will be so different, you'll think that you invited a different person on here. I already know what two soundtracks I'm picking.
Awesome. Well, Brandon, thank you so much. Brandon Lou.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This has been a great episode, a fantastic outing with a dear friend and host of Comic Conversation on To Be Seen, tobeseen.com, or It's To Be Seen on Instagram. And
no, I want to be seen.
I want to be seen. I own it, but I don't remember how much. I spent all this money. I appreciate you, sir. This has been a lot of fun. And the sky's the limit of where we're going with this stuff. And I can't wait to the next episode with Doc Ock and whatever we're doing in 2021.
Yeah.
And when we're back on for the Disc Dungeon, we are going to talk about Turn Off the Dark and heavy metal. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, brother. Take care.
Later, man.